What do you get when you mix vampire kids and post-apocalyptic horror? A great book. Let's talk about it. What's up, my people? Jacob here with Bone Claws Comics, and today we're talking about Something Should Be Killing These Children, better known as Little Monsters. Now, Little Monsters is a comic book series that came out a few years ago, written by Jeff Lemire, art by David Wynn, and it is absolutely great. I mean, you have this horror writer who is really top-notch horror, modern horror. You know, if I can think of top, comic book writers in the last 5 to 10 years, Jeff Lemire is really up there. He's put out some really good stuff, and Little Monsters is no exception. The art style is done in a way that, the black, white, and blood genre of comic books they've been coming out with is really popular. I enjoy it. But this is done in black and white and red. But this is done right. These other series, they do black and white, shades of gray, and a lot of shades of red. Pinks, reds, dark reds, light reds, whatever. It's just drenched in red. This is black, white, shades of gray, and red blood. That's it. This is black, white, and red done right. Just an example, back panel cover here. Black, white, red, gray, and the red blood. And that's how this entire series is drawn and colored. And it's absolutely beautiful. The artwork is great. The story is fantastic. I went by my local comic shop and I saw a couple issues on the shelf. And I was like, that sounds interesting. That looks interesting. One cover in particular that I'll show you in a minute really stood out to me. And I asked my comic shop owner about it. And he's like, yeah, when this book came out, this is one of my most highly recommended books. I love the series and I highly recommend the series. At the time, he had issues 2 through 13, I believe. And I just grabbed them all. I went ahead and picked all of them up. I read issue 1 digitally, but I still got to buy the floppy of issue 1 because, I'm a completionist. I got to have the whole series or, I just, something's wrong with me. But the deluxe edition hardcover, which is what this is, came out this week or last week, and I had to pick it up because I love the series so much. And as you can tell, I collect books. If I love a series, you can't beat floppies. But if it's, a really good series that really means something to me and I really enjoy it, I'm going to double dip and I'm going to buy, the hardcovers too. And they can be pricey in some instances, but, call me what you will. I'm a little strange, I guess, that way. I have no issue double dipping. But the story really gripped me. And I read the first couple issues and I couldn't put it down. And I smashed the entire series that night and I absolutely fell in love with it. Imagine a post-apocalyptic world, but vampires are a thing, but people don't really know about vampires. There's this coven of vampire children. They had a master, not so much anymore, but there's a city, and these kids just occupy this one city, and that's it. Now, let me backpedal a little bit. I'm going to read you the synopsis on the back. I don't want to spoil anything. I'll get into a little bit more of a spoiler section a little bit later. But as always, I'll put up the flag so you know if you want to skip it. And I'm not going to spoil anything major ever. Just enough, to get you to bite. I guess a little more. I'll give you a little more meat to the story if my non-spoiler section doesn't do it for you. But the synopsis on the back says, they are the last children on Earth who also happen to be vampires. For longer than they can remember, these children vampires have lived a life of eternal wonder amongst the ruins of humanity. But shocking events fracture the group and set them on a path of discovery that will shatter their innocence forever. Their ultimate survival depends on their ability to work together against the humans. I'm not a huge fan of that synopsis on the back because it kind of contradicts itself. Obviously, they're not the last children on Earth. In their minds, they may be, but you're not going to have humans in a post-apocalypse if they don't have children. So they're not the last children. They're not the last beings. Obviously there's humans. But they occupy this city, and they're the only ones in this city. No humans, no other beings live in this city. So these vampire children have been brought up and taught they only eat rodents, little animals that they can find. That's how they survive. Obviously, there's humans introduced that's said in the back of the book. But the real conflict begins when people make certain discoveries, and part of the group feels a certain way, and part of the group feels a different certain kind of way. And I'll go into that a little bit later. But this story does feature children. Children vampires ranging from 6 or 7 all the way up to preteen, 12, maybe 13 years old. There is violence in this book. There is blood in this book. And some of that violence is directed towards children. So if you have an issue with violence against children, even though they're vampires, they're monsters, they are still children in a lot of people's eyes, and it's depicted that way. So if you have an issue with violence, surrounding children, against children, violence by children, this may not be a good book for you at all, because it is surrounded, by these children vampires who are violent and have violence done against them. And so just a warning there. But if you're okay with that, if you like good horror, kind of vampire, monster, post-apocalyptic kind of story, this is going to be a really good book for you. Now, I mentioned in the store there was this issue that particularly caught my eye, and this is it right here. It's issue number 8, and here's the cover of it. And this really stood out to me. Like, I picked this up and I looked at it. I mean, I absolutely just love the art style of this cover. I mean, the Victorian Gothic horror theme, the red with the black portrait, and if you can look close, there's a little speckle of blood on the girl's mouth. It's just it's gorgeous, and I love it. And I probably would have picked up this issue alone if I didn't ask about the series, just because I love this cover style so much. And it's even titled An Illustrated Novel by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. It's just, I absolutely love this style, love this cover, and they don't say judge a book by its cover, but some covers will sell a book, and that's one of them. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the story, but I'm going to throw up my spoiler tag, because now I'm going to talk a little bit past the first couple of issues to kind of set up the good story for you. Like I said, I'm not going to spoil anything major. I'm just going to give a little bit more meat to this story in case you haven't already been hooked. So, these children occupy this city. There are no adults in this city. Their coven leader, the adult vampires, are nowhere to be found. They have left some time ago. Could have been dozens of years, maybe 100 years prior. And these kids just live here. They occupy the city. The city is their playground. However, their masters, before they left, warned them to never leave the city. So they don't. They spent countless years in this city and have never left. On the flip side, as the back has mentioned, there are human beings occupying this world. However, on their side, they were warned to never enter the city. So you have this dichotomy of vampires occupying the city, humans occupying the rest of the countryside. Neither of them are aware of each other. Now, in issue 1, a human being happens to stumble into the city and is discovered by this vampire child who doesn't know what he's looking at. The human happens to get injured, there's blood, and for some instinctive reason, the vampire child is like, that looks delicious, and I'm going to have me a taste. So the vampire child feeds on this human, and it kind of awakens him. Now, these children have lived their entire existence on animals. They've never tasted human blood. And there's a reason for that. I'm not going to spoil any of that. But once this vampire child gets a taste of human blood, he has to share with his compadres, his fellow vampires. And some of them taste it, some of them don't. Some of them stick to the rules left by their masters, and some of them venture out and explore. And the human blood changes them in a way. It kind of makes them, I guess, in a way, true vampires, like you would think of it. And not that it makes them, any stronger, any more violent, any more this or that. It just changes their mindset and their cravings and other ways that I'm not going to spoil. But now that humans have been introduced to these vampires, and these vampires have been introduced to humans, you have vampire kids who want to exit the city and go hunting for these humans. They want more of this human blood, and some of them do. And then you have humans on the flip side who are looking for their compadre, and some may venture into the city. And you have this interaction, this commingling now of humans and vampires, and things get nasty very quickly. And as a horror writer, a comic horror writer, Jeff Lemire does a fantastic job of portraying, these interactions and the intensity of what happens when these two worlds collide. Horror in comics is a very, very tricky thing to do. It's not like movies where you can have jump scares or build tension through music. This has to build tension through reading and atmosphere and art. And I think Jeff Lemire and Dustin do a great job of really portraying the tension through this book. Things happen sudden in some panels. They're like, whoa, it does catch you that you weren't expecting. The tension of, what's going to happen with this character next? How is this character going to handle this situation? It adds tension. I won't say this is a frightening book because it's not really frightening, but some of the concepts get you thinking. It kind of adds to the thrill of the storytelling as it plays out. And unlike the first book series that I talked about, Heartpiercer, this book does delve into a little bit of the psychological. I mean, these kids were vampires before the apocalypse. They're never going to grow old. I mean, they're eternally children, but their minds grow. What would it be like to be a child for all time? Would it be a sense of torture? Maybe. You have this Interview the Vampire kind of problem where a child's a vampire but is forbidden because you're going to be stuck in this child's body for all time. The innocence of the children still stays intact. I mean, these kids are playful. They draw, they're kids. But really, can kids stay kids forever? Physically, they are. Mentally, they're not. Spiritually and emotionally, they're not going to be kids forever. And these kids who decide to diverge from, their master's teachings, things are going to really be changing for them. And you'll discover that in the book. Some of the backstories of these kids are revealed and, how they came to be vampires. Of course, some of them are older than others. You see kids who were turned 100 years ago, kids that were turned in the modern age, maybe a couple that were turned post-apocalypse. Well, not really post-apocalypse, or turned closer toward the apocalypse. And all their stories are different. All their stories are unique. The masters involved, they turn them for various reasons. They really want to build a family, a little vampire coven. And, the storytelling is really good. You can really dig into it. The psychological torture, the psychological torment, you can dig deep if you really want to with this book, or you can read it at face value. At face value, it's great. You dig a little bit deeper, elevate it just a little bit and think a little bit outside past what's written on the page, and this book really shows its brilliance. And I absolutely love books like this. This is why I have no issue double dipping with this book, because this is a book that I can read over and over again. And in some cases, you may get more out of the book the more times you read it. And that's just a mark of a great author. It really is. Again, this deluxe hardcover version, plain white, beautiful. I have a couple little nicks on there I'm not too happy about, but I'm not going to complain because in the end, I collect stories. The books are nice. I like them to be in good shape. But, a little ding here and there, I'm not gonna fuss about. In the end, the story's intact, and that's what I really want is the story. Beautiful cover, too. I don't think that's a cover of any issue, but it's a great cover. Not too bad. 13 issues collected, which I think is a perfect length for a good story. And, it retails $39.99, but, of course, you're going to find it on sale. I mean, I think I bought it, on release day for less than $39.99. So, yeah, check it out. If you like floppies, I'm sure a lot of local comic shops still have floppies. If you like the hardcover edition like I have, it reads really well. The pages are still really well. There's no gutter loss because you can see the pages kind of, I don't want to spoil anything. So let me find a cover page. Here, something like that. There is no gutter loss, so you don't have to worry about that. And it's a really, really great story. About friendships, family, what happens when friendships break apart, when families break apart. And that happens on both sides, the human and the vampire side. Of course, yeah, it'd be nice to have a little more of this world, see what it's like from the human's perspective a little bit more. But I'm not going to complain. This book is fantastic, and I highly, highly recommend it. As always, please support your local comic shops. If you don't have a local comic shop, let me know in the comment section below. Haven't asked this before, but if you like my channel, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate the support. I'm up to 10 subscribers right now, less than a dozen, and I'm really trying to grow this channel, spread some awareness, you know, get out there a little bit more. So if you like the show, if you like the channel, if you like the videos, you know, click subscribe, notifications, you know the works. I'm not going to do the whole spiel. But I really appreciate you stopping by. If you stayed to the end, hit that thumbs up for me, and I will talk to you again soon. Just, you know, leave me a comment below so I can get it, you know. Stop it. Okay. As always, please support your local Speak.